I'm Holly Dietz, and these are my weird ideas. In this episode, we're going to talk about sports ball. Football, to be exact, but not in the way you're probably thinking. The idea for this episode came from an article I read about the Carolina Panthers and David Tepper. The Panthers were purchased in 2018 by Mr. Tepper, who is the head of Appaloosa Management, a hedge fund, my favorite, for $2.3 billion. Panthers' record post-purchase is 31 wins and 68 losses. And despite this, they are reportedly worth twice as much now as what Tepper paid for them. So, Chris Steele, first of all, welcome back and Happy New Year. And I'm so glad you're here today and that we're talking about this. Also, what the actual fuck?
Well, thank you, Holly. It's good to be back. And Happy New Year to you as well.
Yes.
Um, this is quite the situation, and I will give my disclaimer that this is near and dear to my heart. For those who don't know, I live in the city of Charlotte and have for the past 17 years. So I have seen most of the life of the Carolina Panthers under different management and different leadership. And this is quite the time to watch someone who is worth billions of dollars purchase a sporting team and just simply, I'll be honest, run it into the ground right now.
But
Um,
but what does that mean, run it into the ground? If it's worth double,
it's funny that you should say that because we have a person who, as you just noted, is the head of a hedge fund who purchased the Carolina Panthers for several billion dollars. And the first thing is that he mentioned, outside the anecdotal, we're going to win, be successful, blah, 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 maybe a championship, proceeded to talk about the concerts he was going to bring to, Bank of America Stadium. And obviously, shortly after that, purchased and brought an MLS team to the same stadium, who, by the way, has more success to date since his purchase than the Panthers have, even though they're much older.
okay.
Let's be clear about this. This is an asset for the hedge fund manager, David Tepper. So while the team has suffered and had failure on the field, he's made the most out of the stadium. He's brought different entertainment venues. We've had everyone from Beyonce to whoever you can think of here at the stadium. And it's generated money for him. It's been a tool to generate revenue at the expense probably of the Carolina Panthers.
Okay, so I don't know anything about this. I gave up all sports in my first divorce, so I literally just don't care. But I do care because of what has actually happened. Because you and I have talked before, and we'll talk again at some point about value and who decides what has value, what does that mean, etc. It's a podcast for another day. But how do you think it feels to be a player on this team that clearly is not succeeding in the role that they were given to do, but yet financially they're told this is fantastical. How does that feel?
It probably feels pretty terrible. I can't imagine walking into a job where your boss doesn't say it, but it's very clear that you are behind the eight ball in terms of generating success, and you're told to do the best you can with what you have. I by no means I will go ahead and tell you that I support another team technically for NFL football, but I've obviously
Oh,
followed.
really?
I,
Okay, all right.
Here's the running joke, and I will go ahead and declare it now. I am a Dallas Cowboys fan, but I call myself a Panthers sympathizer because I've lived in the city for almost 2 decades. I've watched
Okay.
them have success, and barring that the Carolina Panthers don't play my beloved Dallas Cowboys, I want the Panthers to win. I want
Okay.
them to have all the success possible until they play Dallas. Um, but here's the deal. Under the leadership of David Tepper, he has traded away quite a few assets to get a first-round draft pick last year in the draft to get a quarterback, Bryce Young, who in himself probably is a pretty decent talent and will grow to be a great talent, but he's put nothing around him. There's been very few assets. We traded away a number one wide receiver to get said draft pick, which means that the quarterback is left with no real weapons or anything to throw to. He's left without any real talent on the offensive line. He's left without, even leadership. They brought in quite a very expensive, if you look at the name, the history, and the experience of the coaching staff, that was supposed to be the end all to be all leadership team that we needed to make the team better. And that coach was fired 11 weeks into a 17-week NFL season.
Oh, wow.
Now the former special teams coach, now interim head coach, was the person who coached the team. They had 2 wins and I guess it was 15 losses. Yeah. So it's one of those things where you trade away a lot of things. You give away a lot of assets. I will take about this high level versus just going sporty ball terminology. You trade away a lot of assets for one asset that you think will be very valuable in the future, but the short term, there's no way that you can succeed with what you gave away, right? Like I can't give you all the things that I need, or most of the things I need, for one thing in exchange and say it'll be okay. That being said, I feel like the sentiment has never been lower, and just a sad state of affairs in the city of Charlotte about football.
I can imagine.
I listen to a lot of sports talk radio. It's just my thing as I drive, and I drive a lot. And I can tell you people think it was a bad pick at quarterback. I can tell you people think that he's running the team into the ground. I can tell you that people are very upset with the assets he gave away to get Bryce Young. Even if Bryce Young is the person and the answer at quarterback, people are very upset at the price it cost. The coaching staff clearly didn't work because he fired most of them 11 weeks into the season. So that was not great. And then we have the piece de resistance, which is the fantastic thing. And I think a week or two ago at this point, at the recording of this podcast, they were at an away game in Jacksonville, Florida, and some heckling fans got the best of said David Tepper, and he had the window to his box open. He proceeded to get angry and sling a drink at fans who paid to be there in the stadium.
Right.
And I will never say a person, you handle your feelings how you handle them. But I just feel I am a firm believer that when you have that level of resources and assets, that you just have to play a different game, and you have to realize that you have more at stake than the average person does.
Well, I mean, you know me well enough to know that I am a huge fan of only punching up, and punching down makes me extremely angry. And I think that this might qualify.
I would say so. I will be honest and tell you that I don't know that anyone really knows what said fans said to David Tepper.
But it shouldn't matter.
And
It
that's the
shouldn't
thing,
matter.
right? I don't think it really should. You are a multi-billionaire team owner
Yeah.
at an NFL stadium that you're a guest at. And let's be real, any sporting event, especially ones here in the South, which we both reside in the South, people take this way too seriously, and they also get a little over lubricated, if you will.
That's true. Yes.
And enjoy themselves. So a drunken fan saying something to you should not be the thing that triggers you when you own the opposing team and you're there as a guest. And just simply, once again, punching down is not a thing that's ever going to be acceptable.
No, it shouldn't be anyway.
All that to say is it speaks to character. I'm not saying that everyone hasn't had a bad day and made a bad decision. I'm saying that holistically, nothing about his behavior or his choices from a NFL football owner perspective give anyone in the city of Charlotte any hope for the future.
Right. Now, let's talk about that for a minute, because I will say this. I went to Clemson University. I graduated from Clemson, and unfortunately, I attended Clemson post Danny Ford. I was there during the dark, horrible times of Clemson football.
Yes.
When, no games were won, no thrills were had. So I can imagine, I don't have to imagine how it feels to be, because I was a fan of Clemson football at the time, obviously, because I was a student. It's what you did. So I'm in Charlotte, and I'm a fan of the Panthers, and I have absolutely nothing I can do about this. I buy my season tickets, which I'm assuming are not cheap. I mean, nothing's cheap anymore, but I can't imagine what the cheapest season tickets for a professional football team would be these days. And I go and I'm like, how do you just keep supporting something that's just so poorly run?
I'm of two minds on this because my knee-jerk reaction is that you don't. I know I have friends who are PSL owners, which stands for personal seating licenses, which is a season ticket. You get a certain set of seats for the entire season. Those are your seats. You pay that fee. And my thing is like, why would you? My question to them usually is, why would you continue to purchase that and give your money to this person, given the fact that he is making his asset worth more, but he's not making the team that you love and want to support any better. In fact, you're going, violently in the opposite direction. And the two responses I usually get are, I don't think I will. I'm not going to buy my PSLs next year. Or, well, Chris, me and my son, or me and my dad, or me and my brothers have had PSLs for, over 20 seasons now. We don't want to give up on our team. And I can respect that, right? Once again, let's be clear. I have not a lot to brag about as a Dallas Cowboys fan. We've had some decent years of success, and we had some great years in the 90s. But since then, we haven't won any championships. And we're literally the most probably hated group of fans in the NFL, just because. The bravado of other fans, maybe.
Okay.
But at the end of the day, nothing is going to deter me from supporting them. They can have the worst season, and I will be honest about them. I will tell you when our team is bad, when our players are bad, when the coaching is bad. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to not be a fan, and I can respect.
You're not supporting them monetarily, though, are you?
I go to a couple of games here that I don't own a PSL because I live in Charlotte, North Carolina, and that's Dallas, Texas, which is a good point. So the answer is usually, this is bigger than this person, and I'm going to ride out the storm, or I am making that about face, and I don't plan on buying those tickets this coming season for 2024, 2025.
Okay, I know that we don't know what we're talking about here. I mean, we know you know what you're talking about with football, and I don't know what I'm talking about at all. But that's okay. That's sort of the point to this podcast. So we've got this guy who can do whatever he wants because he's basically got more money than, he's not the richest dude in the world, but come on, who's going to say no to this guy? What's his end game here, do you think?
That's a great question. And I don't know that I have my own theories, right? So I will share those because this is the platform I get to share those on.
Okay.
And my theory at the end of the day is this is something for him to do. This is a thing. And also, it's a wise business investment. Like you started off the podcast saying, he's more than doubled his value in this franchise, even though the franchise is failing, not winning on the field, not producing a quality product for entertainment. But
so they're like the Amazon of football teams.
That is a whole nother topic for another podcast. But yes, so you buy something that's worth value, that appreciates. The NFL is literally the biggest money printing mechanism, I feel like, on the face of the planet. They literally almost own a full day of the week. At this point, we now watch NFL on Wednesday nights. Sometimes.
What? Are you serious?
There's a Thursday night football game during the postseason. There's Wednesday sometimes. There's definitely Saturday games. There's always Sunday games. So it's like the NFL is just expanding, just getting worth more. They just announced recently that the Carolina Panthers are going to play an exhibition game in Germany next year. So we're trying to expand into Europe now.
Okay.
So this is the thing. The quality of the product is garbage right now, but the actual value of the asset is appreciating in value. So,
wow. I just, the more I live, the more I just go, I don't even know what's happening anymore, because I used to know that a certain thing was made well, so you paid more for it, or this thing tasted better, so you paid more for it, or this thing was actually rare, and so you paid more for it. But now it just feels like it's all just this weird game in the sky.
it's a business at the end of the day. What used to be a great pastime and a form of entertainment obviously is big business now. And our friend, the hedge fund manager, Mr. Tepper, knows how to play this game and operate within the confines of this business.
I wonder if this brings him any joy. I wonder if there's delight here, or is it just business and it's a spreadsheet and he ticks a box? I don't think it matters, but I wonder sometimes people who are at that level of anything, whether it's David Tepper with his big head on, or I don't know who's the greatest athlete right now of anything. I don't know these things, but it doesn't matter. It could be, John Doe who plays for, I don't know, team. But like when you're at this level that most people can never ever reach, and whatever it is you're doing, do you still have joy in accomplishing anything within that realm anymore? I mean, when David Tepper makes an extra million, which I know is like toilet paper for the rest of us, does that make him happy? And when, I don't know, I was expecting you to tell me who the greatest sports person is.
Oh,
I do not know.
it's
Name
very
me one.
subjective. I'm old school, so active players is what we'll go with now, because if I say
Yeah.
of all time,
Yeah, active players. I mean, like people that I absolutely don't know who I'm talking about.
I think right now in basketball, this is definitely up for debate, but I would say that like Steph Curry is one of the greatest basketball players of our current time, active players.
Is this okay? I'm going to show ignorance and actual knowledge. Is this the Steph Curry that's been around for a long time, or is this progeny of that Steph Curry?
No. This is the Steph Curry, the one who went to Davidson University, the one who plays for the Golden State Warriors, and is probably the greatest shooter of a whole era.
I know who you're talking about, so that just makes this more fun. All right, so Steph Curry, do you think that he's still, or maybe, I don't know, maybe he never did have fun. Maybe this is not supposed to be fun. Maybe it is supposed to be beyond that, but
I want to bring that back. I want to bring that back because I feel like an athlete, and I think that he has good character off the court, and that maybe someone feels differently. But this is my platform, and I get to talk about this.
Yes.
You invited me here, not someone else.
I did. Yes.
I think he still enjoys what he does, and I still think he has joy in what he does, even though he is probably on the latter side of his career now. I think he still takes joy in being a better player and having success on the court. I feel like a David Tepper buying a team is like an old guy buying a classic sports car. It's fun to play with. It gives him joy to maybe drive now and then. And at the end of the day, it probably is going to appreciate in value in 10 years when he goes and sells it, right? Like he bought it for this amount of dollars, right? And it's worth this much more. So I think it's yes and. I think let's be clear, part of his background is he was a partial owner in the Pittsburgh Steelers previously too. So the fact that he bought some stake in that and now is an actual full owner in his own right probably gives him joy that he's accomplished that. Also, it doesn't hurt that he almost doubled his money in a short amount of time, even at the cost of a team's on-the-field success. I don't think
I just want you to tell me that you think maybe he has trouble sleeping at night sometimes when he thinks about these people who have.
I don't think he has trouble sleeping at night.
No, I don't think he does either. But
hires and fires at a very high rate. I think that his joy comes at a much higher level. I feel like
you know what? He probably pays people to sleep at night for him.
Yeah, that way he doesn't waste the time sleeping.
Oh, yeah, why waste time sleeping when you can just
other things
make
to do, like
the money?
Yes.
Yeah.
I would say I think his joy comes from the ownership of the team, and at the end of the day, if his team could win and an NFL championship, win a Super Bowl, I think that would bring him joy. That's
clearly not going to happen.
I think he's we could all agree he's a long way from that. I think that end goal one day, if it ever happened, would bring him joy. But until then, or if that never happens, I think being the guy who says I own an NFL team brings him some semblance of joy.
Wow. This conversation has made me sort of sad, but that's okay. These are not all going to be, every episode cannot be full of happiness and glee. It's fine. But I am glad we talked about this because it has about as much meaning as David Tepper's spreadsheets have for me in my regular life, right? Like, none of this actually matters at the end of the day, except for the people who are making their money as Carolina Panthers, and I guess the other people working in the organization. So that's not totally true.
I think there's something to be said about that. I think it's been an interesting conversation. You're right. It's not been the most gleeful one.
Yeah.
And I understand that while we make high level jokes about David Tepper and his billions and billions of dollars, let's be real. The cost of that is someone's livelihood at some point.
Yeah. I think I'm very mindful of that. The fact that there are people who make decisions just carte blanche, just, a swipe of the pen, a delete of a tick box on a sheet somewhere, and it means that a family doesn't eat. And so it's all well and good for us to joke about David Tepper and sort of make fun of him. Not that he cares, he would never care. At the end of the day, every spreadsheet goes back to a person. And may we never be the kind of people who would think of a spreadsheet that way. And may we always remember that without people, there are no assets to buy. That's it. That's my big takeaway.
Oh, so well said. I was in awe. Like that is, you brought something that was kind of like one of our running conversations and funny, and that's really impactful. You're right. At the end of the day, we laugh and joke about this because for him this is monopoly money to some instances, but there's a real cost to this.
Yep.
Even the failure that he doesn't see as a failure, maybe just part of the business, is going to cost someone their job. Someone's not going to play in the NFL anymore because they played on a terrible team and don't get another chance now. This could be the last spot they landed at.
That's right. And if you don't fill the stadium, maybe you don't have as many vendors, and maybe you don't have as many people that you need to hire to clean the stadium after the fact. I mean, everything is connected, and I don't want to be that person, kumbaya and holistic, blah, blah. But in reality, it is true. We are all part of this universe, and decisions matter. So, with that being said, I'm just going to leave us all with this. May all of your decisions for the rest of this week be decent ones. We know they can't all be good, but make them decent and try to remember that not everything just affects you. All right. So, I have really appreciated this, and I know we will talk again, Mr. Steele. And wherever you are, whether it's morning, afternoon, or night, I want to thank you for listening to this. If you've made it all the way through, you are amazing, and we really appreciate it. And we will see you again.